The things that we have in our heart that we think are impossible are often just milestones waiting to get accomplished if you can push those limits. Listen, everything was impossible until someone did it, so you can either hang around people that tell you it can be done or hang around people that inspire possibilities. Welcome to the Path to Unlimited, weekly interviews with entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, those that inspire possibilities. And I'm your host, Julian Marion. And like the UFC, we are live. Well, welcome to the Path to Unlimited, and I have a special guest today. His name is Michael Unks. Michael, welcome to the Path to Unlimited.
Thanks for having me, Julian.
Well, also, and Michael is slightly different than so far most of the guests that we've had. I want to say Michael is probably the youngest one we've had, but what he has done the past 6-7 months?
Yes, sir. About
right?
6-7 months.
6-7 months has been just amazing, and I just love to feature those that have pushed barriers and are accomplishing things that will truly just inspire possibilities in us. So, Michael, in a few words, like how would you describe what you do to other people?
Simply put, I just want to inspire them to be better, to do better, and to live better.
Awesome. So what do you do full time right now?
Right now I'm a pharmacist. I graduated in May of this year, so I've been a pharmacist about 6-7 months now.
Nice. So are you a doctor?
Technically I'm a doctor, but I try to stay humble. I don't mention that. And plus I look at real doctors as MDs, so I try to keep that on the hush a little bit.
Well, it is out. Dr. Unks is with us today in Unlimited Nation. All right, well, Michael, I just want to really, go right away, right into, some of the stuff that you're really passionate about. And I know that you and I had a, post, or should I say pre-chat interview. And just to really kind of get to know each other, and our message and what we want to really share is very aligned. So what is your kind of like your mantra, or something that kind of just like refocuses you now, right? Like you read it and you're like, okay, boom, this is what I know I want to do. It refocuses me every single day. So do you have one?
I do. And it's a saying that's from a long time ago from Emile Coué, and it's every day in every way I'm getting better and better. And that's something that runs through my mind when I wake up in the morning. I want to develop myself and become a better person so I can give more to others. So that drives me and keeps me doing what I want to do.
Cool. I've heard that before, and because I'm a former athlete, so a lot, in terms of playing games and such, like you have to constantly visualize the game that you're about to play, how are you going to play it, and so I did a lot of research on visualization, and that is one of the saying, that I remember very vividly, so that is really cool. So, what gets you up in the morning now? Because I know, like you say, you graduated, beginning of this year, started writing a bunch of books. So, what wakes you up in the morning?
Just realizing that no matter where you are in your life, that you're not stuck where you are. And if you're not happy with yourself, you can look within yourself, find the problems, and come up with solutions to them, and change for the better. And I've realized that most of my whole life I was focusing on all the wrong things. I was just trying to please people, just to find acceptance, get people to love me. And then, about a year and a half ago, I realized that was the wrong strategy. I just needed to find what made me happy, ways to find out how to love myself, and then use what I learned and teach it to others so they can do the same thing.
That's cool. So how are you pleasing someone, other people? Like, how would you came to that realization, like what would you do to please other people?
Well, I grew up a heavy kid, and I felt there'd be no way that anyone would like me if I was fat. So around 13 or 14, I started lifting weights and was pretty much obsessed with it, and got to a point where I felt like I was a specimen. I was at 5% body fat, and people always wanted to see my six-pack, all that. And I realized I love working out and eating healthy, all that, but back in the day I was doing that just for get people to like me, just for acceptance, and those are the wrong reasons.
Yes, I know so many people, can relate to that. Especially the way you feel about your body, and kind of I guess physiology, right? Physiology determines a lot about your thoughts, your actions, and then eventually your results. So, are you an early bird or a night owl?
Definitely an early bird. I like to get up around 5:30 in the morning. I usually go for a 10-mile run just to clear my head, and that really sets the table for the rest of my day to get my head straight.
Well, you definitely have your mind cleared after 10 miles. That's a good decent run right there.
Yeah. I
So
have
do you
no
run a
plans.
lot?
I do. I probably a little bit too much. I probably about 50 miles a week.
Jeez, that is really good. Yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm not the best at running. I love more of just the cross functional fitness and less of the impact on my knees for running.
Yeah,
But
I
I
know
will
probably
run.
when I'm 30, I'm going to be paying for it with my knees, all the cartilage wearing off. But I love doing it, so I'll have to address that in the future. Maybe switch to swimming.
There we go. But everything I feel like in fitness, everything has to do with seasons, right? You might be in a season where you're a hardcore CrossFitter, and then you move into something else and something else. So the constant just adaptation and involvement, right, that you have in your body, I think it's and that's the fun journey about fitness, right? Is that you never get bored because you're trying something new every single time.
That's absolutely right. Yep.
Awesome. So do you have like a mental checklist that you do every day? Do you do like I don't know, meditation or affirmation? Do you do something that kind of just allows you to, have consistent results?
I do. I mean, it's a couple things. The exercise is definitely one. As I mentioned, it definitely clears my head. Maybe things that are bothering me. When I go out on a run, I just, I'm almost meditating when I'm running. I'm not sprinting. I'm just going at a decent pace, and that's where a lot of my thoughts come to me. And also, when I wake up in the morning, I just think about how grateful I am for everything I have, because most of my life I focused on what was missing, and all it takes is just a few things, just to have my health, to just be simply to be alive, have my family, have a job, and it doesn't take much, and then I start to feel really good, and all the problems that I have just wash away.
Good. I have the kind of same belief in terms of like, but also just like fitness. Being one of the first things you need to do. To have any kind of change because it's very physical, right? And
Right.
and it changes your physiology. And I know you're obviously you know more about what the body does. Whenever you do different things, especially whenever you work out or take medications. So what happens whenever someone works out?
Well, they get a release of norepinephrine, adrenaline, which gets your heart racing, gets your blood pumping, and just helps your blood flow throughout your body so that you're better able to absorb nutrients. And then, pretty much every time you work out, you will get endorphins release from your pituitary gland in your brain, which will make you happier. And also when you're working out, you're going to get a surge of testosterone and a decrease in cortisol, and testosterone brings about more confidence, and lower cortisol brings about lower stress. So it's very it's a hard sell going against exercise. There's just so many benefits to it.
Yeah. So what do you tell people then that tells you that, hey, I'm tired. That's I can't even see myself working out because I'm already tired.
I think just trying to do too much at once
Hmm.
and having unrealistic goals and expectations is definitely a way to get complacent and not even want to try. So normally, if I get that response, I'll just tell somebody, "Hey, just go for a walk, 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes a day, 3 times a week. And if you do that, let's move it up to 4, and the next week 5, and then as time goes on, they'll start getting motivated, they'll start feeling good, and they'll actually want to do more."
That's awesome. Yeah, because your body starts to produce, the testosterone and the cortisol levels start to drop down, and then you start to feel that you have more energy, right?
That's right.
Cool.
Yeah, and the thing I found when I did research in pharmacy school on testosterone products was that testosterone doesn't get stored in fat, where estrogen does. So if you're overweight, 20, 30 pounds overweight, you're going to have a low testosterone, but you're going to have higher estrogen. But once you start losing that body fat, you actually get your levels in a ratio where the testosterone's higher compared to the estrogen, and you'll start feeling better. You'll have more energy, and all these benefits that testosterone provide.
Cool, cool, cool. And you heard it first from a doctor. All right, Mike. So, um, let's shift into limitations, right? Like, what are your thoughts about, limitations?
It's always just bottom line fears, and it basically comes down to fear of the unknown and fears of things that are out of your control. For example, when I was thinking about writing a book, I had doubts because I never wrote a book before, and I was a pharmacist. I was good at math and science, but English wasn't always my strong subject. So I really didn't know how writing a book was going to go down. I thought maybe just my mom and grandma would read it, and that would be it. Or maybe people would read it, but they wouldn't like it, and they leave a ton of negative reviews. So it was just the fear of the unknown that almost stopped me from doing it. But I just thought about the regret I would have of not doing it. I thought about when I'm 80 years old, or hopefully closer to 100 on my deathbed. I really didn't want to think about what if I wrote that book when I was 24. What path would that take me on? And I didn't want to wonder. I didn't want to worry about that. I decided to just go for it. And it is one of the best things I've ever done because it's led to me writing 5 more books this year.
Cool. So for all you guys listening that's still babysitting that one book, Mike has like 5 books in how many months?
In 7 months.
7 months, which is, which goes, like a lot of time when people think about writing a book, they think about this long, strenuous kind of process, that you have massive writer's block. So, how have you fought that? How have you fought just that, that belief that a lot of people trying to impose on others that it is really hard to write a book and it's going to take you forever and then editing is going to be even harder. Like, how did you fight that, those kind of limitations and other people, try to impose on you?
I've just become a student of life. Every day I'm looking at everything that happens to me and observing the behavior around me and just trying to learn from it. And if a certain situation comes up and I handle it in a certain way that's positive, or if it's negative, I always look to learn from it. So probably anywhere from 5 to 20 times a day, I'll just put in my notepad app in my phone, just a little brief 1-sentence summary of the idea that I'm looking to share. And I do this every day, so now there's hundreds, probably thousands of little ideas and stories that when it comes time to sit down and write, I have all the material. It's just a way of just going back and rehashing it and living out the moments and putting it on paper.
That is cool. And I think John Maxwell talks about that a lot, in terms of, categorizing your, those little articles and stories and, principles and things that you've learned so that whenever you get to the point of writing your books, you can just go back into, those stories, those articles, and it takes a lot less time to put a book together, versus just coming out cold turkey and just said, I'm gonna write a book today. Let me do some research.
Right? I agree more. Absolutely.
Awesome. So, talk about fear, because I know you kind of mentioned, fear a little bit, but talk about time when you were, fearful. And, like, just take us there, like, trying to be as vivid as you can. Take us there, and what did you do to come out of it?
My fear, most of my life, has been with people. I mean, I've grown up my whole life just always being the quiet kid. I was so afraid to be around people that I remember even in high school, I would eat lunch in my car because I couldn't be around people, face the rejection. People called me mumbles because every time I did talk, I was just had no confidence, and, the words didn't come out clearly. But I found that I was trying to fix all these other things, maybe become better looking, make more money, and then somehow, just like magic, I'd be able to talk to people. And I'm so glad that a couple of years ago I realized that wasn't going to work. I had to get out there and just face my fears and start talking to people. And when I found that I started talking to people, that I really didn't have anything to be afraid of. People like me, and when I'm talking to them, I'm focusing on them, what they're interested in, what they like. And I found that talking to people or even going up on stage is just not. It doesn't have to be as scary as you think it is.
That. I really do appreciate you kind of talking about that, because I know there's so many people that go through that, in terms of confidence at first, and not thinking that that you're good enough. But the reality is, like, everybody's self-conscious, right, about them, the way they look, the way they sound, that they don't worry so much about other people, right? And we think that whenever we step somewhere, like, oh my gosh, everybody's looking at me. But a lot of times people are worrying about like, oh, how do I compare versus this person, or how do I look?
Right.
So I really do appreciate you mentioning that. So action plan, like, what would you tell someone that is they're stuck right now, they're stuck in life, they're stuck with this book, right? And they are just limiting themselves, or just allowing other people to limit them, like telling me, hey, you're not a writer, what are you trying to do? You're too young, what are you trying to do? You don't have enough life experience. Like, how people are going to come in and listen and read your book? Like, what would you tell them?
Just simply try to cut those negative influences out of your life. I mean, I've had some family members, some friends that told me similar things, but I just got to be true to who I am and just go after what I want. And if anyone's seen the movie Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, they'll know that, if you don't go after what you want, even if it seems pretty good, you'll never be satisfied. So as much as it's tough to get that criticism, and you're definitely going to get it trying to go after what you really want, but you got to find it within you just to know that, if you don't go after what you want, you'll never be satisfied, and life will be full of regret.
So how can somebody, identify, this is what I want, or this is my passion?
About 2 years ago, when I started having all these thoughts of possibility, I asked myself, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? And I was indecisive at that point in my life, but I was shocked. I immediately said I'd be a motivational speaker, no doubt about it. And then from there, I just started planning on what it would take to make that happen. And I mean, just think. And another way you could do that is just if you had to do it for free, what would you do? Because I became a pharmacist largely out of money. I was just getting a job that was in high demand, and just to get that security. But it really wasn't something I wanted to do. So just to find what you do for free and what would you do if you couldn't fail are two things. Because in actuality, if you never quit, you're not going to fail. You may do things that appear to be failure, but they're always going to be temporary defeat if you never give up. And there'll always be opportunities for you to learn and to be a better person next time, so that when you go for it again, you'll succeed.
Awesome. So I've heard what you said, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to do it, but Michael, you don't get it, man. I have like real limitations. Like, I work full time. I have kids. I kind of want to write this book, but I really, I don't think there's anything I can do about that. Like, I just can't.
Yeah, and that's a misconception that I had, is I felt I had to have the motivation and then I would do it. But it's just not true. Just simply getting started provides so much motivation. And as we talked about earlier, as far as starting an exercise regimen, is that maybe what you're wanting to do is a little unrealistic, or just too much, that it's overwhelming in the beginning. So all I would say is just, hey, I know you have a lot going on, but just 10 minutes. Just sit down and write your book for 10 minutes and see where that takes you. And I found that when I didn't want to write a book, and I felt like I didn't have the time, I just sat down and blocked out some time to write it, and it brought a smile to my face, and I felt so energized. I remember writing for 4 or 5 hours that first night, and the next morning I wanted to do it again. So all I would say is just chunk it up and just start small, and I'm certain it'll grow to much more.
Cool. So, Michael, what do you think is one habit or quality that you think is responsible for, you breaking through, right? Breaking through some of those limitations that you had, with school and with just like the security and all that kind of stuff.
I'd say just being honest with myself and doing things that I want to do, and not trying to please other people. Because I was definitely a perfectionist. I was trying to look the best, make the most money, be the MVP whenever I played a pickup game of basketball. And I just dropped that. I realized that as long as I'm just getting better each and every day, I'm enough. And so is everyone else that has that mindset. And so just realizing you're enough, wanting to be better, and then just focusing on what you want and not worrying about what other people say, or how they think about you. Those are two things that you need to have if you want to live the life I know you can live.
That's cool. So what resource, would you say, is one that you use the most and allows you to, to really be, quote unquote, unlimited?
I would say the access to knowledge I have. Just reading books. My whole life, I just absolutely hated reading. But once my teacher in pharmacy school kind of turned me on to it, I just got so much benefit from it, and all the knowledge I get, I look to apply it. So it's a complete waste of time if you don't apply it. But I just look for other inspirational and motivational books and just learn from successful people to share all their successes and failures, just to learn from them and apply it so that I can get to the path of success a lot faster.
Cool. So I'm gonna go there, right? I'm gonna ask you. So how did they turn you on into reading?
Well, it just I got a connection with my teacher. He told me that he was just like me when he was my age, and he was probably more negative than me and had less confidence. And I just saw him as just an extremely positive guy. Just things never bothered him. He was married, had wife and kids. He had a side security business that was making almost as much as his salary. And it just seemed like he was doing it all and just stress-free. And I was inspired by him. I just wanted to listen and see what he had to say in hopes of becoming more like him.
Cool. So if you could pick one book, right, that you need to, let's say whenever you have kids, right, and you're like, this is the one book I want my kid to read. If they don't read any other books, this is the one book I want them to read.
Okay. It's Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I bought this several times, and I give it to friends and family members. It's just fantastic. The author Napoleon Hill spent 25 years studying 500 people from the 20th century just to track and see what elements were part of their success. And he found 13 different things that all of them had in common. So all 500 of them. And he wrote a book about these 13 chapters and 13 qualities that they had, and just puts it in a way that's just easy to understand and just inspires you to apply what they teach you, and you get results. I mean, everyone that reads it and applies what they learn, they just become more successful.
That's cool. Let's see. That is one of the. I didn't know about Napoleon Hill until my brother, gave me, Think and Grow Rich. The actual thick edition, right? The one that has like a very hard back. It almost looks like a Bible, right? Yeah. And then I started to really fall in love and start, researching, more about his content and what he has done, and just amazing. One of my favorite book from him, obviously Think and Grow Rich, but also, I don't know if you read it, but it's Outwitting the Devil.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. I've read Think and Grow Rich probably 5 or 6 times now. I just love it so much. But yeah, I'll definitely have to look at that.
Yeah, who knows that it might open other windows for you to to write about them. Which pretty much the book, what he does is, he has this mastermind, right? So he kind of goes into imaginary discussion with the devil, right? In terms of and he asks the devil, okay, so how do you get people? Right? How do you get people to just do the wrong thing when they know it's wrong? And really goes deeper, into that, especially if you get the audio version. I'm a huge fan of Audible. Huge fan. And actually the podcast we partner up with Audible to offer, everybody that listens one free book. And for me, it's like since 2011, I started, had a goal of listening to one book a month. Right? Because just like you, I hated reading, right? I did go to grad school, so I had to do a lot of reading. But it all started with just, let me listen to one book. And then the one book opened up to, let me just try to read, one chapter. But I've stayed consistent since 2011, December 2010, to listen to one book a month. And sometimes I get 2 books. But the audio version of Outwitting the Devil is priceless. So if you get a chance, that's the one that I would definitely recommend you listen to.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm glad you mentioned the audio books, because that's what my teacher gave me. He gave me a Zig Ziglar CD, and if he gave me a paperback book, I probably wasn't going to read it. But since I was probably an hour away from school and had to drive, I'm like, I'll just give it a shot. And then once I started listening to it, I was hooked on personal development and motivational speaking, and it changed my life.
That is awesome. And you see that a lot from leaders, and from people that are unlimited, is knowledge and learning. Which you don't need to necessarily sit down and read a book, but you can listen, to an audio tape. You can listen to, a YouTube channel. You can listen to podcasts, right? Like just listening to this podcast. It's not that long, but it gives you enough content that it just needs to give you a different perspective. Once you have a different perspective, then now you can approach a problem differently. You can see that, wow, man, Michael just, he's not even 30 yet, and he's written that many books, and obviously, you figure out a system that works with your, 40 plus hours a week job, on top of, all the extracurricular activities you have to still do, five books. So that inspires someone to say, you know what, maybe I can do one, right? Like he did 5 in 7 months. Maybe I can do 1 in 7 months,
Absolutely.
or get very close to it. So that is really cool. So again, you kind of beat me on that question. So if you guys have listened to the podcast before, whenever Michael said it, you were probably like, oh, are you going to ask it? Yes, I will still ask the question. So if you were unlimited, could not fail, without limits, what would you do in just 7 days? So you only have 7 days of being unlimited. What would you do?
I'd probably go to all the biggest venues like Madison Square Garden. I mean, just places like that, and just empty my heart out and just share all the things I've learned and all the ideas and stories that can help people inspire them to live better lives.
Awesome. So what is your why? What is your why now?
My why is just helping people realize that they're not stuck where they are. I mean, my whole life I was convinced that I wanted to change, but I felt like I was just destined to be a shy guy, just never good enough. And I'm just so fortunate I've had people in my life to just help me realize that that was a lie, that I could really do whatever I wanted to do. I needed to change my mindset. So that's all I'm doing, is just presenting stories and ideas in a way just to get it to sink in for people, to realize that they really can do what they want to do in life. But it requires their change in mindset, and they have to take responsibility for their life and stop making excuses and just get started.
Bam. Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being our guide on this path to unlimited. Give us one parting piece of guidance and the best way that we can support you. And if someone wants to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
So they can go to my website. It's michaelunks.com. It's the last name spelled UNKS. And as we talked about the audiobooks, that was my strategy, is for people that don't like reading, they can listen to an audiobook still counts. So I offer all my audiobooks on the website. Just click the link and enter your email, and we'll send it right over. And as far as finding the books, you can also look my name up on Amazon as well, Michael Unks, UNKS.
Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being our guide on this path to unlimited. And hopefully we'll have you again maybe on your 10th book, because at the rate you're going, maybe it will be next year. Awesome. We'll talk to you soon. Bye. Wow, what an episode with Michael Unks. I just can't wait to see what else he has in store. This guy is moving really fast and is determined. Again, make sure to go check him out on Amazon. Type Michael Unks and you should see all of his books. And you can also check him out on Audible. And again, guys, if you love what you're listening to, please subscribe, share, rate, and review. And I'm just so excited to see all the changes already happening in 2016 for you guys. Continue to accept compliments from everyone, limitations from no one. Love you guys. Bye.